Huh? I have to move a little bit this direction,
Yeah,
otherwise
yeah.
we cannot see the bridge.
Yeah.
Hey Matt,
Hi there,
Great
Richard.
see-
Hey. Sorry.
great seeing you here.
Yeah, good to see you too as well. Welcome to Sydney.
Thank you, and thank you for taking the time today to walk around with me through your lovely city. Yeah,
That's all right. It's a pleasure.
That's what we can see here in the back. It's the harbour bridge, you know.
Yeah, and it's a perfect day, perfect weather. So you brought the good weather with you.
Thank you. No, you prepared it. So, Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about TGA, Amateur A, many journeys you did?
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up in the UK. I grew up in the north of England, and after I graduated, I started working in pharmaceuticals. And it was at that time I met my wife, who's an Australian. So she asked me if I'd like to come back to Australia with her, and I followed her here, and that was in 2003.
Okay.
So I worked over here in Australia from 2003 up to 2009, again in industry, in sterile and non-sterile manufacturing, predominantly here in Sydney. And around 2009, I decided to try something different. So I joined the TGA as a medicines inspector. I spent 5 years with the TGA at that time, based in Sydney, traveling the world, inspecting all over. And at the same time, we had children. And when my youngest son, Samuel, was born in 2014, we decided that was a good time to allow my parents, who are still in the UK, to enjoy the joys of grandchildren. So we moved back to the UK in 2014. And I was very fortunate at that time to get a job with the MHRA as a GMDP inspector. So I worked for the MHRA for 12 months, an incredible experience. Really good to see the parallels and the comparison to having worked at the TGA. And I thoroughly enjoyed my time there. However, we missed the sun. And my wife being Australian, we were very much drawn back to Sydney. So after a year with the MHRA, came back and was very fortunate again to join the TGA. And I've been with the TGA again since 2015 as a medicines inspector, again based here in Sydney, and heavily involved in lots of inspections and the way we regulate medicines here in Australia. And in particular, Annex 1's probably been one of the highlights of that, being involved in the drafting and development of Annex 1.
Yeah. You looked really happy when you talk about your role at the TGA. What do you like as an inspector?
That's a really good question. I'm really passionate about supplying medicines to people. There are lots of people in the world who, for one reason or another, need medicines. I've needed medicines, my family's need medicines, and often in kind of acute critical care situations. And I think it really hits home the importance of what the industry does. And I think part of my role at the TGA is helping support that, facilitate that. And I really enjoy seeing manufacturers do really well, deliver exciting, innovative products that change the lives of individuals. And I also like my participation in advancing GMP and how we regulate and manufacture medicines. I think one of the great things about being an inspector is no 2 days are the same. We will see some absolutely amazing things within manufacturing facilities, really unique and innovative science-based ways of meeting compliance. And I've never stopped learning, Richard. That is one of the main things. Every day is a day at school. I will learn something new. I will learn different ways of doing the same objective. And I've never got bored. I really enjoy what I do. It's exciting.
Yeah, I can definitely.
Yeah, you can tell. Yeah.
So, as you were heavily involved in Annex 1,
Yeah.
maybe I start with one first question to you. And I must say, we were not prepared, so we have not discussed how we are dressed today. But maybe if I start with that point, which is often mentioned in all of the workshops I attended. So maybe you can see it. I wear socks. But
and I don't have.
you don't have socks.
I don't have socks.
So, what is your thoughts about sterile socks?
So clean room socks has been probably one of the elements of Annex 1 that has brought most interest and a lot of discussions and debates. And really, there have been sites in the past that have introduced sterile socks, clean room socks that can be used during the gowning process for people that are gowning up into aseptic areas of the facility. So there has been cases in the past that we've seen where they've already been applied. Its inclusion in Annex 1 is kind of that continued evolution to making sure that we're managing risk. And we need to remember when we write Annex 1, we're not just writing it for the most mature, well-developed, well-supported facilities, we're writing it for all range of facilities across the world. And there are differences in the way facilities operate, and there are also cultural differences that need to be taken into consideration. So for example, there are certain countries where, like myself, people don't wear socks on a regular basis, may come to work in sandals or otherwise, and there is a risk or a vector of contamination into the clean room. There are also, as you can probably appreciate, a lot of the gowns that people put on, you have to step into them. So the first thing that you're trying to put into this sterile gown and trying not to touch the outside of the gown is your feet. And so we do, at inspection sometimes see people with socks that are fluffy and woolly. They've come from home. They're probably not the right material to have in a clean room. So putting in some suggestions around how this risk can be mitigated by introducing sterile socks is a natural kind of progression in that way, again to mitigate the risk associated with bringing contamination from personal clothing into that grade C area or higher grade where gowning is being taking place.
Yeah, that's definitely.